intervention so far. As you know, this year's race involves two presidential candidates, incumbent President Dorothy Tucker, who's an investigative reporter for CBS 2 out of Chicago, and challenger Manny McDonald Smith, managing editor for CBS, for the CBS station KYW out of Philly. And to put it in context, we had 6 candidates who ran unopposed for seats. That's Vice President of Digital, Vice President Broadcast, Secretary, Region 1 Director, Region 3 Director, and Student Representative. We won't hold you long. I just want to thank Election Chair Melanie Eversley and her committee. I want to really thank you. It's always a challenging job. You couldn't pay me to do it. But we appreciate it very much. So with that said, let's me get out of the way and let Melanie get to the meat. You're on mute, Melanie.
Thanks so much, Drew. And while we're thanking folks, I want to thank you, Director of Operations Angela Robinson, Director of Membership and Election Staff Liaison Veronique Dotson, and Director of Communications Kanya Stewart for all your tireless work and willingness to take late night phone calls, early morning phone calls, gathering numbers, helping with questions and all of that. We greatly appreciate it. I also want to thank the members of the Elections Committee, Corey Atkinson, former NABJ parliamentarian and DC Courts reporter with Law 360, Michelle Fitzhugh-Craig, current NABJ parliamentarian and founder publisher of Shades Magazine, celebrating all women of color. Chanel Stitt, business reporter at the Detroit Free Press, and Alexander Quince, senior director of news at Spectrum. At this time, I'm just gonna start off with reading the results of the president's race. Manuel Smith earned 111 votes with 17% of the votes. Dorothy Tucker earned 530 votes, 83% of the votes. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to Corey Atkinson.
Melanie, you're fading out. You're fading out. We don't hear you that well.
Okay, I'll announce the numbers again. Manuel Smith earned 111 votes with 17% of the total votes, and Dorothy Tucker earned 531 votes with 83% of the votes. Did you all hear that okay, or do I need to repeat it? All right. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to Corey Atkinson. He's going to explain the process that the Elections Committee went through and that our vendor went through in terms of counting the ballots.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the NABJ Elections Committee was put in place to make sure all would-be candidates were eligible to run and that candidates stayed within the lines, and in some cases figure out our existing election rules and the NABJ Constitution applied to campaign behavior. NABJ's vendor, which is eBallot, based in Arlington, Virginia, tallied the votes cast electronically between July 12th and 5 p.m. Eastern Time or 2 p.m. Pacific Time today. Chanel?
Thank you. I will now read off the numbers for 3 of the uncontested races. Ken Lemon, who is a Western Borough reporter at WSOC TV in Charlotte, is the NABJ Vice President of Broadcast with 596 votes. Amir Vera, who is a writer at CNN and is president of the Atlanta Association of Black Journalists, is the NABJ Vice President of Digital with 586 votes. And Madison Carter, who is an investigative reporter at 11 Alive News in Atlanta, is the NABJ Secretary with 584 votes. Now I will hand it over to Michelle Fitzhugh-Craig.
Michelle, you're on mute. You're on mute.
Yeah, I was going there too. Okay. Good evening, good afternoon, depending where you live. I will be reading the 3 remaining uncontested races. First, we have Bree Jackson, a Washington correspondent with Hearst TV stations. She is the new NABJ Region 1 director with 227 votes. Next, we have Eva Coleman, lifestyle and culture editor, iMessenger Media, and former convention chair, is the new NABJ Region 3 director with 187 votes. Finally, we have Tamia Folks, a member of the class of 22 at the University of Wisconsin. She is our new NABJ student representative with 75 votes. Next, I'll turn it over to Alexander Quince.
Thank you, Michelle. We want to give everyone the opportunity who's viewing the live stream to be able to ask questions of the candidates and newly elected officers. So please submit your questions at this time at the Q&A tab at the bottom of the screen. We'll give an opportunity for those questions to be asked prior to the conclusion of our news conference here. So at this time, we want to hear from the newly elected officers and the challengers to give them an opportunity to speak to you, additionally speak to their supporters. So they will be offered 5 minutes for the office of president, and we will begin with President-elect Dorothy Tucker. You have 5 minutes to address your supporters and members at this time.
Thank you. And thank you. First of all, let me say congratulations to our new board members, Amir, Eva, and Bree, and Tamara, and welcome back to Ken. I look forward to working with you guys. I'm a little speechless. I was so hoping for this outcome. And I really appreciate the work of the election committee. And I appreciate all of those members who voted for me. Thank you for trusting me. Thank you for giving me the honor of representing the most respected journalism organization in the world. To my opponent, Manny Smith, your passion for NABJ is evident. I promise you and your supporters that your valid concerns will be addressed. At the end of the day, NABJ is the family that we choose. And while we may not agree on everything, I think we all can agree on one thing, and that is we want the best for NABJ. I want to thank my supporters who lit up social media and made this Black girl blush. Shout out to my campaign team. You know who you are, and you know how much I adore you for the support, for the phone calls, for putting up with me. Kisses to my family. Thank you for understanding and accepting my obsession with NABJ. It is time now to continue the work. Those of you who have reached out to me and said that you would help, anybody on the board will tell you, you will hear from me. So look for a phone call in the next couple of weeks because, you know, it takes a family to run NABJ. Again, thank you. I am excited to begin the next chapter of my NABJ career.
Thank you, President-elect. At this time, Manny Smith, if you would like to address members at this time, you have 5 minutes.
All right. First order of business is congratulations to my opponent and the incoming board. Looking forward to see what work you guys will deliver on behalf of the organization. And listen, any day there's an election and members win, you know, that's democracy speaking, and that's a win. We can all agree on that as journalists. So today is a good day. But I also want to thank every single supporter and my corporate colleagues at Viacom CBS who supported my run and encouraged me to participate. Really, every day of this campaign was amazing. I appreciated the opportunity to elevate the concerns, goals, and the needs of members who feel unspoken for and underappreciated within NABJ. And I'm going to pledge today to remain active, engaged, and on the forefront of ensuring accountability, accessibility, and transparency within NABJ, and to push for this organization's leadership to make members' needs and concerns a priority over profits. And for as much as there is a win for my opponent, it's also a red flag in that we, as an organization of journalists, cannot engage even a quarter of membership to vote. That speaks to overall apathy and some disengagement within NABJ that many members feel. And I'm not pointing a finger, saying that all of us have to get at that issue and others. And I look forward to playing a role in the forefront of that movement as we build a better NABJ together. Again, thank you everybody for the support. Thank you for listening and embracing my ideas. And I look forward to joining you guys in many other ways as a fellow member in the weeks and years to come.
Thank you, Manny. At this time, we would like to also hear from our uncontested candidates. We will provide them an opportunity of 2 minutes to speak as well. Ken Lemon, if you would like to address the floor, you may do so at this time.
Thank you, Alexander. Thank you, Election Committee, for your time and for running such a strong and a beneficiary campaign for all the voters. Thank you to each and every last one of those chapters who opened up your meetings, allowed me to come in. Each person who answered the phone whenever I called or texted back gave me an opportunity to listen to what you had to say and gave me your vote. It means a lot to me, contested or not. It means a lot that you check that box. It is an opportunity now to get to work. This isn't status quo. This isn't coasting. It is time now to get to work. And you'll hear from me because there are things that I'd like to get done, and I will need your support in the same way you came out to vote to come out and make sure that the members of NABJ are well served. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. Now to the Office of Vice President Digital, Amir Vera.
What's going on, everybody? I want to thank everybody who voted for me, even if it was an uncontested election. It means a lot to me. And I want to thank the Atlanta Association of Black Journalists Executive Board, both past and present, for their support. Those folks include Carol Gant and Jay Franklin, who both continuously kept it real with me throughout this process and made sure I was prepared for the role. Raisa Habersham for serving as my campaign chair, while at the same time serving as ABJ's VP of Print. Gary Cotton, Craig Allen Brown, Eric Niggins Jr., and Ray Matoyer for their patience and support throughout this process. I also want to thank all the previous and current NABJ executive board members for their guidance and advice when I decided to take this role. Those folks include Kathy Chaney, Greg Morrison, Bené Wilson, Walter Smith Randolph, and of course, Dorothy Tucker. And I can't forget the homies, Demenis Brown, Carrie Charles, and Glenn Marshall, who were there for me whenever I needed to vent and for needed advice. And last but not least, I want to thank all my CNN colleagues for their unwavering support, but especially my former and current editors, Kathy Strait and Emily Smith. And if I left off any names, thank you too. I look forward to working with everyone and changing the digital culture within the NABJ. Thank you.
Thank you, Amir. Now to the Office of Secretary, Madison Carter. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you so much. I first want to thank members of this board, honestly. So many people that I'm so excited to work with. We form relationships either as mentors or advisors over the years as I've come up through the ranks of NABJ. And I'm really here because of that, because of the work that I've seen NABJ invest into local chapters. That's why I wanted to be a part of it at the national level to continue to do that work. Like I said, I ran for secretary so I could have a seat at the table, a way to represent and merge these two generations of journalists we have. I see so many questions about that, about engagement in our Q&A, and I really think that that's what this new board can do. I'll keep my comments brief. I want to say thank you so much for voting, and I'm just excited to get to work.
Thank you, Madison. Now to the Office of Region 1 Director, Bree Jackson.
Hi there. Thank you to everyone that came out to show their support and everyone who voted. It's an honor to be elected to the Region 1 Director. It's something I'm very excited to take on. I also want to give a big shout out and a big thank you to Tori Parrish for her guidance and support and encouraging me to take part and to step up and take a leadership role. So I'm grateful for her believing in me, and I'm grateful for those who came out and voted with a vote of confidence and believed in my abilities to be able to continue the work that has been done in Region 1 and to improve upon some of the programs that we already have in Region 1. So I look forward to working with what appears to me to be an amazing board. I'm excited about everyone that's been involved. I've gotten a chance to get to know some of you guys through Zoom. So I really look forward to working with you guys. I feel like we have a great group, and I look forward to helping other journalists and making things happen for the organization in the coming years.
Thank you, Bree. Now to our Region 3 Director, Eva Coleman.
First, I'd like to say thank you so much to the founders of this organization, our great and beloved NABJ. Thank you so much for founding an organization that so many of us strive to serve and honor. Congratulations to each and every person that ran such an awesome race. Madam President Tucker, it will be a pleasure to during your administration. Thank you to all of those who've come before me, all of my NABJ mentors, including my very, very dear mentor, Cheryl Smith. I'm so grateful for everyone who cast a vote for me and for those who didn't as well. Just know that I will represent you to the best of my ability. And I thank you so much. And I will definitely be going the hard way for NABJ Region 3 for inclusivity, equality, and preparedness of members throughout our entire region. Congratulations, everyone. And I look forward to getting to work.
Thank you, Eva. Now to the final member of our new board, Student Representative Tamia Folks. Tamia, are you with us?
I don't think she's on.
Very good. Well, at this time, we'll turn it back over to you, Elections Committee Chair Melanie Eversley. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Alexander. At this time, we're going to take questions from folks. If you do have a question, please put it in the Q&A box. To start off, we've got 3 questions focused on turnout. So I'm just going to read all 3 of them. Charles Hallman asks, to both presidential candidates, your thoughts on such a low turnout among membership in voting. Charles Hallman of the Minnesota Spokesman Recorder. And then similarly, an anonymous attendee says, there are over 4,100 NABJ members. Voter turnout was extremely low. Why do you think this is so? And then another similar question, also from an anonymous attendee, for President Tucker, only about 650 people voted in the presidential election out of a touted 4,000 plus membership. What does that tell you about the state of NABJ's engagement with members? So whoever would like to start, whichever one of you would like to start.
I'll pick up and just say, hey, I think I brought that one up a few minutes ago, right? Listen, am I disappointed that there is a loss? Absolutely, right? But am I discouraged? No, because listen, I think my candidacy spoke to these very concerns. Are we engaging our members? Are we talking about the issues? Listen, I think that one of the things I'm probably disappointed most about in this campaign is that we didn't talk about issues. My opponent made this a popularity contest. I think we made it in the sense where we started talking about, instead of talking about real member concerns, it became about who are we going to get to endorse us, pitting people in corners, instead of actually asking people to engage and giving our members an opportunity to hear from both sides. I hope that in the future that not only will that change, but the structural things about the timing and the opportunities and even the way that presidential candidates are allowed to communicate and not communicate start to change so that we can have freer and fairer elections within NABJ and that we get closer to making member needs first.
First of all, let me back up for a moment because I've received a very important text, and that text is that I neglected to congratulate Madison. So Madison, my apologies, missed your name, but definitely.
Thank you so much.
All the phone calls we've had, I love you. And I so look forward to welcoming you on the board. The one thing I want to point out in this board that I think we've got about half of our members are probably under the age of 35, so yeah, 35 or 40. So yeah, yay for that. As for the question and the turnout, the one thing that I know is that if you look at the numbers over the last few elections, I don't think we've ever had more than about 600 people vote. So this is not an issue that just happened this election. I remember when I won the first time, the total vote was 500 or something. When I won VP, the total vote was maybe about 600. The numbers have been pretty consistent. So it is not about what happened this election. The other thing you have to remember about our numbers is that we have 4,100 members, but remember, you're talking full members, academic members, public relations. So, you have to look at all the facts and break it down because not everyone can vote for every race. Of that 4,100, many of them are students. Students don't vote for the president and for the other races. Public relations professionals, they can't vote at this point. So, the facts of the matter is that we're not talking about five or 600 out of a full 4,100. Now, having said all of that, would I like to see many more of our members engage? Absolutely, which is why, time and time again, I was on social media, not just asking for endorsements. Those of you who heard from me, what you heard, first thing you heard me say was exercise your right to vote, exercise your right to vote. And it's something that I've encouraged every election and will continue to encourage.
Thank you. Next question comes from Mike Wolfolk. He asks, in the presidential race, there were a total of 642 votes cast. What percentage is that of the eligible voting membership? I'll take that one on. That is a number that the committee is trying to get now. Please give us until early next week to get that to you while numbers are certified. Next question comes from an anonymous attendee. President Tucker, which issues raised by your opponent in this election will you add to your agenda for the coming term?
The issue at the top of the list, and I did begin to make a list, but I don't have it in front of me. But right off the top of my head is just the concern about the chapter split. I made when that issue first came up a few months ago, I made phone calls to almost every chapter president in the country that we have, and what I discovered was that there seemed to be an issue in Region 1 because, as I said during some of the debates, if you look at the monies that were raised, Miami had $40,000, Atlanta had, $20,000, and there were other chapters that definitely made money. So, somewhere along the way, there is a problem. That is an issue, and that is definitely one that I want to address. To figure out just what is the best split. I know that chapters will come to us with proposals, and so we want to look at the ideas, just as we've done in the past. This board will discuss that, and at the end of the day, my mandate is to make sure that our chapter leaders feel valued and are made whole. So I can assure you that. Yeah, that's the most important one, I think. There's some others, but you guys are going to have to forgive me. Needless to say, the last 3 or 4 days have been, a little bit hairy.
Thank you. Next question comes from Denise Clay Murray. It's in 2 parts. First part, how many votes were cast altogether? Right now, again, the numbers are not certified. Please give us until the beginning of next week to get that to you. Second part of that question, and I guess this is for both of the presidential candidates. There were a bunch of uncontested races. Why is that the case? And what can be done to keep that from being the case in the future? Actually, I assume this is for anybody who would like to answer.
Madam Chair? Melanie?
Anyone? Yes.
Yeah, you know what? One of the things as a candidate who ran uncontested, one of the things I wanted to make sure when I ran, I cannot control who signs up to run, but one of the things I wanted to make sure is that the opportunity for voters to impact this race isn't lost. And that's the reason why I didn't just sit back and decide to go with that, with my name being the only one down, not go to the chapter meetings, not call on people, not ask for their vote, not ask what they want to see change. That's an opportunity to actually for the voters to affect change and to help direct leaders on what should happen over the next couple of years of the term that they're in. I work really hard to make sure that they still have that opportunity. I hope that's not lost. And you will see that that'll be reflected in the 2 years that I serve.
And if I can just add, I know this came up in one of our forums, and I really think that it's a matter of grooming our next generation. So I think it's a challenge to this board to call on people. I was called on in every leadership position I've ever been in. And so now it's my responsibility to go out and find the next one, to go out and help that person get to these kinds of seats. So I definitely think it's a matter of engaging with people, choosing people, and helping them prepare for positions like this. So, you know, now that I have a seat at the table, this is going to be a challenge that I'm going to extend to the rest of the board members. So this doesn't happen again.
Let me just say that I am really happy to see that this bothers some people. So let me ask you, you know, to go to work on this. You know, let's join forces and figure out, you know, what's the solution? What's the answer? You know, typically, as I said, over the course of the last 8, 9, probably 10 years, the numbers have been right around 600. You know, I wonder, and I don't know the answer to this, I wonder what the numbers were prior to that. You know, what was the percentage then? Has it always been about the same? You know, so, you know, those who are bothered by it, then, you know, please join the rest of us on the board because, you know, I think it is something that is concerning, you know, of concern to all of us because it is not, again, something new. It's been ongoing. So this perhaps may be a time for us to put out a questionnaire. You know, let's put out a survey. Let's ask people, why didn't you vote? What is it that would get you to cast that ballot? You know, I think over the years we have tweaked some things. You know, there were, you know, I think when we started going electronic, what we did was make sure that we put the ballots out, I think every couple of days, because it gets to your email and then it gets buried. You know, it's on computer. You open up that yet another email from Nabj. You know, so, but you know, those are the things that we knew were issues before and were addressed. So, you know, this is again not the first time we've had this conversation. I think it's a conversation that is necessary. But let's continue to see if we can find some solutions to this issue.
I want to join you, Dorothy, in that call for like solutions in that same sense, right? Because I feel like that was probably the core of my campaign of how do we do things better at NABJ? And like in the sense that, hey, I think it's probably a little bit more than the survey and the conversation where we as journalists cover democracy as the core of what we do. For us to not understand or want to be engaged about voting is absolutely crazy, especially at the time when we're seeing how horribly things are going in Afghanistan. And people are literally falling off of planes for their lives over the right of democracy. So the fact that we are not engaging our members, that we're not actualizing and actually demonstrating that ourselves is something about the core of what we're doing and how we're doing it. There's a better way to being able to do it. Maybe the way that I wanted to see it happen or the way that you want to see it happen may not even be the right answers. Well, but hey, let's get at the right ones that make this organization strong and that, you know, get people more involved and engaged at a higher level.
Let me just say, we're talking about the election. We're not talking about the engagement of the members of this organization. If you look at, again, let us look at the facts. We had more than 50 webinars, and literally hundreds turned out, hundreds signed up. The numbers were great at the Media Institute. The numbers were great at the regional. And if you look at the engagement during this convention, our members are engaged. Our members are excited. They have been home during much of this pandemic. They're just beginning to get out, but still, they are excited and more than willing to be a part of NABJ. So, the issue is that for reasons that we can figure out, they're not necessarily voting, but those that I hear from, are just very impressed with what we have done the last few years, and what we've done in the last couple of years.
But isn't that the point of us as leaders, to hear from the people who we don't hear from, right? I hear from my supporters, you hear from your supporters, and between, if we just listen to only our supporters, we're not listening to enough of the members, and I think we can agree on that.
We absolutely agree on that. I think that's why I said, that the valid concerns will be addressed. You're absolutely right.
Okay, we've got thank you very much. We've got a lot of questions to get to, so I'm going to move on to the next one, which comes from Cheryl Coward, and it's for Dorothy. Will there be more of an effort to provide increased programming for non-broadcast media from NABJ, and to also include specific Black LGBTQ+ programming during the convention?
I actually made a call and asked one of our co-chairs, why is it that what happened? I was not happy to know that we did not have one LGBTQ panel. I was not at all happy about that. My understanding was that there was indeed at least one that was pitched, and that it was rejected. I wish I'd known that. And so one of the things that I will institute is, and I think this is not just for, one panel, one of the things that I will do going forward, especially for that segment of our population, those who are not as represented as others, if there is a proposal that is made and the program committee rejects it, as opposed to an all-out rejection, it's over with. What I would like to empower the program committee to do is to take a second look at it, see if there's a way it can be tweaked. If the committee decided that, that doesn't rise to a certain level, then just don't dismiss it. Let's look at it. Let's go back to the producers and say, hey, maybe if you add this, maybe if you change that, how about doing this so that we can make sure, that we have, we have sessions that represent all of our members, and that is very important to me. As opposed, in response to the question about more print, yes. That is something that we will continue to work on, and that is one of the reasons. And I think what you saw, the editor's database was not just formed to collect this directory. I asked both the co-chairs to look at how do we increase the sessions, how do we make sure that we are serving our print journalists in particular better. And that's why they started the master classes, and you're going to see those kind of master classes every month. So I don't want to just wait until that yearly convention. I don't want to just wait until that regional comes up. What they're doing, and what I applaud, is you will see those kind of master classes that have started, and that they will be on a regular basis. So I don't know that broadcasters are doing that, but it was important to me that we offered that for our print journalists.
Okay, Executive Director Drew Berry has his hand up. I guess he wants to add something to this.
Yeah, it should never come down to one submission. Let me give you an example. The Sports Task Force, they're very good. They flood with a lot of ideas, okay? Sometimes an idea that I or somebody put in there, it may not be the best idea to fit in, but it shouldn't come down to one idea. Submit a lot of ideas, just like the task forces do. I would strongly suggest that task forces just get together and strategize. Okay, why don't we submit these 5, 6, or 7 or whatever session ideas for the conference. But even beyond that, we have year-round programming. You don't have to wait until a convention. We have year-round. Look at the male media projects and everything else out there. As you said, we have dozens of webinars year-round, so don't wait to the conference. Put it out there now.
Yeah,
and some of the task forces do that.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. I'd forgotten about that. I remember the weather and climate task force. I mean, I think they had like 3 or 4 of them, and they literally just started. Why? Because they submitted probably 6 or 7 or 8.
Yes.
So let's begin to do that as well. And the other thing that I want to say and remind all of our members of is that, you guys know this, our members now have to work across all disciplines, so that, when we have these sessions, like the masterclass, I'll use that one as an example. I encouraged that session was primarily print, it was, but I encouraged broadcasters to go because it was an opportunity to hear from a manager, from a leader, from a top executive, and it was about leadership, so when we have the innovation bubble classes, when we have much of the technology, it's for everybody. And I did a workshop on investigative writing, and I looked in the audience and there were print journalists there, because at the core, when you start talking about investigative journalism, it's across every platform, and there are tips and information that apply to us all. So let me just make that argument or point that out as well.
Okay, I see another question from Denise. I'm actually going to come back to it and give some other folks a chance to ask questions. An anonymous.
I have my hand up, but can I just add a little bit to what Dorothy said?
Oh, sure. I apologize.
The big thing that I noticed, and I said this on my flyers and in my speeches in the forums, the question was, what are you going to do to get more journalists outside of broadcast involved? And, this is not taking a shot at Dorothy, but the first thing she went to was print journalists. And so, I ran for this board because I saw that there was not only a lack of interest, but a lack of education, if that's the right word, in the digital space. So I'll just use CNN for example, because I work at CNN. We have a booth, and we just have our digital programmers, our head of digital, they're just sitting there at the #1 news source in the world, and people don't know that these jobs exist. So I think a big thing is education and bringing that education in. And so I just want to add that to Dorothy. It can't just be broadcast and print these days. You got to think about digital. That's a growing third branch that's been there and it's growing. So I just want to put that in.
Amir, keep in mind, what was the focus this year? It was digital. It was digital. That was the focus. And if you look at the offerings that we had, many of them were digital. So the question was geared to print. So I answered the question, but quite honestly, digital is in everything that we do. And we really went out of our way this year to make sure that we had a number of sessions in digital as well.
Okay, Drew?
Yeah, and just very quickly too, the whole innovation bubble was born because of digital. Okay, so that's been around about 5 years now.
Yeah.
So and like I said, everything's basically digital. If you don't have a digital footprint there, whether you print, broadcast, whatever, there's an issue there. You're missing out. So digital's, you're right. Digital's huge. Okay, because everybody, all of us, are impacted by that, and there are opportunities there.
All right, thank you. Next question comes from an anonymous attendee. This cycle, the NABJ Presidential Candidates Forum was 2 weeks after the polls opened. This appeared to have given the incumbent an advantage. Why did NABJ not schedule these much earlier? Whoever would like to take that on, that's fine. But I will say that it's just how things shook out. As some of you know, organizing an election and monitoring everything, familiarizing yourself with the Constitution and the election rules, and making sure you have a full committee, a diverse committee. All of that takes time. We're all volunteers, and that is just kind of how things shook out. There was no sinister plan or anything like that. It just kind of rolled out that way.
Well, I can
tell
you. You reached out to me and asked me what days worked, and I'm a full-time investigative reporter. I had stories that were due, so I do this job, but I also have a full-time job. So given the opportunity, you put the schedule out and said which one works, and it was kind of like, I have a piece on right before that. I'll be writing a piece there. So it really, it just really came down, to working, to my job. So I asked, I said, these days are bad for me, because I know I had pieces that were going to be airing.
I mean, come on, Dorothy. I think in a sense, though, again, this is one of those core member issues. Was it not that I didn't have a job, but I was sitting around waiting to debate you? Like, that's not the way it is. Our members say that they want to have opportunities to hear from us more often, and I don't think it's a small thing to put aside to say, I have a job. How cold is that to sound to members who don't have a job right now, between both of us who is working?
The job that I have. The job that I have requires me to be on air at certain times. And, the investigations that I do require me, to have to do certain things, to get the script ready and stuff like that. It is the nature of my job. And I think, there is no one that would argue that I spend a lot of time with NABJ because I love this organization. But given the opportunity, when I was asked, Dorothy, what would work and what would not, then I responded, and Melanie was kind enough to just kind of she asked you the same question. It worked on your schedule, and the other days didn't necessarily didn't work on mine. So it was one of those things. That was the only one. I mean, if you look at it, I did 20 some odd candidates forums. You were at 2 of the 20 that I did, only 2. I did more than 20. You can ask the chapter presidents, I mean, I did, I visited more than.
I just think it's,
you guys, thank you so much.
I've only
so
2,
I
that's
appreciate
not.
everybody's viewpoint. But if folks have other questions of any of the candidates, you can reach them offline. Thank you so much. This has been great. We've been going on for like 45 minutes now.
Yeah.
We have to end it. But I just want to congratulate everyone for a spirited campaign. And thanks again to the staff. And you guys enjoy the rest of the convention. Thank you.